how are things going on the recruiting trail for the Auburn Tigers?
Freezing temperatures are likely for several hours inland and a few hours closer to the coast.
Yahtzee.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. This is a bonus Cruton episode, Cruton Thursday, one day early with Locked On Recruiting Insider Brian Smith. Today's show brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. That's why LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Terms and conditions apply. Brian, we've got a fun announcement. We'll talk about that second, but let's start things off talking about Auburn's newest commitment, 2025 defensive lineman from Birmingham, Jordan Crawford. You're a fan of this kid.
A fan is a very mild statement. There is nothing like a guy with his girth that can move like he does. Auburn is in a league that is trench first, second, and third. If you don't have dudes in the trenches, you are not going to propel yourself forward. This is a guy that can command a double team. He can get up the field, make plays in the backfield. And quite frankly, there just aren't enough of those guys, and that's why they're so coveted. Really big pickup for the Tigers. Like, just for the record, like, this is an Alabama, Clemson, Georgia, anybody he wanted to go for, he could.
Yeah. Wanted by a lot of folks, and you can see why. His tape is incredible. And you got to think, okay, the next step for him as a high school player, because he's got a year and a half left before he steps foot officially on a college campus. What do you want to see more out of him when you've watched this tape?
The film itself isn't the deal, because like, he's been well coached. He's a kid that plays hard. He's naturally ridiculously strong. It's more about the off the field, just making sure he's taking care of his body and just getting better there. It's rare that I say that. I mean, technique will come along and you can always do better in that area, but he just needs to continue to redefine his body, because if he does that and he dedicates himself, diet and all that, he can be in the two deep at Auburn by the end of his freshman year, if not before, like even early on. You just can't teach his athleticism with a 300-pound frame like that. You just can't do it.
Sure. As far as Auburn holding off other schools, what's the tactic, do you think, Brian?
Well, there's a couple of things. Number one, you got to show that, hey, we're going to have guys around you like Malik Blockton, et cetera. And their D-line class in this year's recruiting class of 24 is really good. We've been talking about those on Auburn Daily, and you and I talk about it texting and we call each other and stuff like that. Is a different kind of deal. Yeah. Because Auburn hasn't had a class like this D-line wise in a minute. If you can tell him, hey, you're not just going to be a one-man soldier kind of deal where you're getting doubled on replay, that's going to help. And the other thing is, it's just Birmingham. It's a couple hours away. It's not that big a deal. So he should be able to look at this as a great opportunity in many different directions. Yeah,
works out for Coach L up at Step by Step, I believe, is the facility that he trains at. A lot of Auburn connections there. I don't think that's by accident by Hugh Freeze. So we'll continue to monitor that. But now in the 2025 class, Jacaleb Falk, which is the younger brother of Keldrick Falk. I'll take any part of that bloodline possible. Yes, please and thank you. Then Jordan Crawford, Malik Autry, which I think you just mentioned a second ago, the very large defensive lineman out of Opelika. Then Spencer Dowland, 3-star offensive tackle out of Georgia, kind of more of a project player, a raw player, very big. So we'll certainly see what happens there. But at this point, like, Auburn's not used to having these many guys committed a year out. So this is kind of new territory, talking about a class that, is still a year and a half out before getting to campus, but there's already 4 of them.
This is a good sign on many fronts. Number one, recruiting has just changed. Take Auburn out of the equation real quick. There are schools that get 8 to 10 commitments by like January, these kids' junior year, and they still got another semester before they finish their junior season. Yeah. Auburn, if they want, could get to that point. You got to be selective, but you don't want to be behind either. And they're right on par with some of the elite schools in the SEC and beyond. So that shows your staff is putting in effort. And that also shows your staff, considering who they've got committed, is putting in effort with the right dudes. Auburn needed to win more in-state battles. They're doing that. And they're also getting kids at positions they need. O-line, D-line in particular. You and I, again, we text and talk about that quite frequently. Right. Until they get that secured. We can talk about quarterback all day. Everybody wants to bitch about their quarterback. but you got to be good in the trenches. Quarterback will take care of itself with Hugh Freeze in time.
Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about, other than the quarterback, other than Walker White in the 2024 class, you can make the argument that DeAndre Carter is the most important player currently in Auburn's 2024 class. The big, shining offensive lineman that Auburn so desperately needs. But man, there's so much talk about Texas, him potentially flipping to Texas in the near future. What are you hearing about DeAndre Carter?
That is something that I had heard for a while. I don't know the exact inroad there, but if you think back, Sarkisian was on the West Coast for a long time. He was at SC. This kid is at Mater Dei, which is right down the road from SC. That's a feeder school for that program. I'm sure he knows everybody that walks that hallway. And this is an elite player. He's number one on ESPN's board of interior offensive linemen in the class of 24, regardless of region. That's not by accident.
Yeah.
So he's going to get opportunities to go wherever he wants. He's got 50 plus offers. But at the same time, it's not like NIL is exclusive to University of Texas. So I don't know what all he's wanting. But the thing about that is Texas has a gazillion good offensive linemen. They've done well. I mean, they've recruited really well under Sark, and he inherited some talent. I'd be surprised if he did, but at the same time, there's rumors of it. I've heard it a couple of times, but he could start at Auburn before his freshman year is over. He's a rare kid. The article I wrote on Auburn Daily today about him was over 700 words. I don't do many evaluations that long, and for an offensive lineman, that's like super rarefied air. That's how many different credentials this kid deserves. And I even compared him to Quentin Nelson, for those of you that follow the NFL. He's arguably as good an interior offensive lineman as there in the world.
Yeah.
That's who he reminds me of. So there you go.
Right. Brian, you've mentioned it a few times, but our announcement, you will now be covering Auburn recruiting in written form at auburndaily.com.
That's right. That is right. If, as long as I can continue to enjoy it like I do, I don't see why I would ever quit. The state of Alabama is a lot of fun to cover. People are great. I'm going to move up there and kind of just drive around the state, go to breakfast restaurants and talk about football recruiting. That is the objective.
It's a good
Pickup
gig.
truck and a Bulldog. This is good times.
It's a good gig. Yeah, no, we're happy to have you as part of Auburn Media and at auburndaily.com. And he's already got a bunch of stuff up there. So check out our revamped recruiting coverage at auburndaily.com.
That's right.
All right, crazy visitor list this weekend, Brian. I want to get your thoughts on that in just a moment, right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at LinkedIn Jobs. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business, and you want to be 100% certain you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. They have so many different tools and features in the job posting, like screening questions where you don't have to shift through all these resumes. LinkedIn will do it for you, and they'll give you the best applicants for your posting. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That is linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. It's a Cruton Thursday on a Wednesday. Brian Smith joining us. Crazy visitor list coming to watch Auburn and Ole Miss. It's going to be a 6 o'clock local time kick, Brian. And the fact, let's go meta. Let's go big picture here just for a second. The fact that they're able to accumulate this impressive visitor list after getting destroyed by LSU the week before says what, Brian?
That says once again that the staff is putting in time. Recruits go to schools based on relationships, not based on the symbol on the polo that the coach is wearing. I say that all the time, and this is just another example of it. Based on this year's resume, why would you go to Auburn? Obviously, they have a lot of issues to cure. But the other side of that is you want to play for somebody you like, somebody that's proven something. Obviously, Hugh Freeze. Unless I'm wrong, I think he's the only guy since Nick's been at Alabama that's beat him 2 years in a row. It's really hard to do that. So they've got credible people on the staff. And it's not hard, like you and I have talked about, to recruit to Auburn if you put in the effort. This is about a staff-driven situation. It's a good sign. And, I mean, they got 5 stars coming in 24 and 25. Kids committed to Alabama. Ryan Williams, a kid that I know well. It's like, holy cow, is he good? If you can flip some of those kids or even come close, it kind of gives a sign, hey, Auburn is on the rise, and you shouldn't take them lightly because, like, you and I didn't think this was going to happen. And we talk about Auburn every day.
Right.
So this is an incredible list, and they should be proud of what they got. So now they got to show them something.
All right. Who are some guys that are on this visitor list that stand out to you?
Well, let's first talk about Ryan Williams. Let's just put it out there. Here's a basic synopsis of how good he is. Plays for Saraland down by Mobile.
Yeah.
He was Alabama State Player of the Year as a sophomore. Name another kid that's done that.
It's ridiculous.
I mean, Alabama, I think per capita is number 7 in the country, number 6 for NFL talent.
Mm-hmm.
Look, this is not a rocket science adventure, but if you're going to get that and you get him on campus, and KJ, who I know well too, his quarterback at Saraland, who's committed to Texas, I'm sure he's going to be there with it. They kind of do everything together. That's a great start. And anytime you can get that, then we're going to go in the right direction. The Mobile area in general, you and I are going to talk about that a lot. That's an area they need to recapture.
Right.
Pat Dye and some of those guys always did well with that. But I'm not worried about the list as much as where they're at. And they're starting to get all the elite kids from the state of Alabama, first off, to at least come to games. The last 2 staffs, as you like to say, Mr. Potato Head, etc.
Yeah, the potato famine's over.
Yeah. Oh, God, that's very well done. Touche. But you can't win at Auburn unless you get at least 30, 40% of the kids that you really want in state.
Right.
I mean, you just can't. They were at one point, they were getting like 10, 15%. They're just getting smoked. So this is the first step. And I don't know if there's anything that's more important than that. And then they're sprinkling in like DeAndre Carter's from LA. That just shows you how important it is to get kids on campus. He came and he wouldn't have committed if he didn't have a great visit. That's what you can have here. And the atmosphere inside of Jordan Hare is incredible. So they've got a ton of kids coming though. And it's just an impressive list.
Yeah. And there's another 5-star. You did a story on auburndaily.com that's coming down.
Yeah. Cunningham, the wide receiver out of Mississippi. Caleb is one of those guys. He's what I call a 3 clipper. He's from Choctaw County in Mississippi. And you watch about 3 plays and you can turn the film off. He'll jump over somebody, outrun somebody, out physical somebody, make somebody look dumb. And, those kids have parents in the stands too, but he doesn't care. He's just embarrassing people. So that's the kind of guy that you can change your program on. Auburn needs outside talent. Obviously, Perry Thompson and some of the guys they got coming in, and Perry's going to be there this weekend too. That's great, but you need that every year. Alabama, LSU, Georgia, they get those kids every year. You've got to start stealing some of those kids. And it used to be Auburn always got 1 or 2 really good kids out of Mississippi when I was growing up. Always did. They need to get back to that. I mean, it's the bordering state. It shouldn't be that hard. So getting the number 1 guy out of there and a 5-star, that'd be kind of a nice way to go.
It'd be huge. Brian, how can people check out everything you've got going on right now, buddy?
Well, you can obviously check me out at Auburn Daily. That's the first thing, but at FB Scout _Florida on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, is probably the best place thereafter. Really looking forward to driving around the state of Alabama though and watching some high school football.
Yep, absolutely. And you can find all my written work at auburndaily.com as well. And we will see you tomorrow. This has been Locked On Auburn.